Hello everybody, and welcome to the third lesson of scripting C# in Unity. In this lesson we are gonna create 4 scripts. The first script will be a on mouse button script. Every time we click on this square over here, it will change to a new color, and this order will be red, blue, green, and then it will start over again. The second script we're gonna make will be one that will react on also on mouse input. If we move our mouse over this square, it needs to become blue. If we are not hovering over it, it needs to become white. When we hold our mouse button down on the square, it needs to become red, and when we release our mouse button, it needs to become green, and it needs to stay green until we click on it again. So we're gonna need to make a toggle there. The third square will be changed into a random color every time we click on it, and this square over here will be moving on our input, so with WASD. So let's start with the first script. We create a new C# script, and I will drag it into the lesson 3 folder, and we're going to call the script color in order. I'm going to open it. I need to change this name again. Color in order, like that. And the first thing we want to do is we want to keep track of a counter. So we're going to make an integer, a public integer. We are not going to give it any value yet. And we're gonna clean this a little bit. This looks a little bit more nice. We don't need the update function, so you can delete the update function. And we're gonna start right away. And because this will be on the material itself, we don't need to make a reference to it. So we can just say renderer dot material dot color equals color dot white. There, without a capital. And that is because I want to be sure that it got a color at the start. And we will need to put our counter to 0. So now we need to make the function that will be activated whenever we click on it. This function is called on mouse down. Sorry, on mouse down. Be sure to have a capital O, capital M, and capital D. So we open and close with curly brackets. And the first thing we want is to increase our counter by 1. We can do this in 2 ways. We can say counter equals counter plus 1. But because it's only 1, there's an easy thing to do for that, and that's to say counter plus plus. That will increase it by 1. So the first thing is we want to check if the counter equals 1. And then we open and close. And when it is 1, we want it to become red. So we say renderer the material dot color equals color dot red. And now else we want to have another color, but because we want to have actually 2 else's in there, we're going to use the else if. So we're going to say else if counter equals 2, curly brackets open. Then we say renderer dot material dot color equals color dot blue. And then the last one, else if counter equals 3, we say renderer the material dot color equals color dot green. but from this point on we want it to loop back to the red one. So in order to get it to 1, we could put it to 1, but then we will get it troubles here because it will increase and it will become 2 the first time. So in order to fix that, we just say the counter needs to be the same as it was in the start, which is 0. That the next time we press on it, it will be 0 over here. Here it will become 1, so it will be 1 here. So it will be red again. So we can save this now. Go to Unity. And we drag it on the first ball. I'm going to test it. So every time we click on it, this one will be increased by 1. As you can see, it becomes red, blue, and green. As you can see, when it becomes green, it becomes 0. That's because it is 3 here, and at the point that it becomes green, it immediately turns it back to 0. So there's nothing to worry about, it's just how it needs to go. It just changes too fast for you to see it. So now the next one. This one will be a little bit harder. Create a new C# script, and we're gonna call it color on mouse. Gonna open it the moment develop. So here we do not need this. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make a void on mouse over. This will be the color blue when we move over or swear. So we're going to say renderer dot material dot color equals color dot blue. And we're going to save it and we're going to test it if it works. I'm going to drag it on the first orb. Oh, make sure you stop the game all the time, because otherwise it will not save anything. If we go play now and move over it, you can see it turns blue. So that works. But now we have a problem, because we don't want the mouse to be making the color blue when it is already blue. So to do that, we only want it to actually make it blue only at the point that we are getting on it. So that function is called onMouse enter. And now to get it away, we will also only want it to become white when it is not on the orb, but only at the on the point that it is moving off the orb. So just the same as the onMouse enter, we're gonna call this void onMouse exit. And the one is gonna be renderer dot material dot color equals color dot white. I save this, going back to there, and I see that I've got something again, and let's do that. So if we move over now, it becomes blue, and when we exit it, it becomes white again. So now that we know that it works, we will stop the play. We want it to become red when we press our mouse and hold it. So that's gonna be void on mouse down, and we want it to become red. So to check that out, blue, and if we click it, it becomes red. And now that I release the mouse button, you see it's still red. Well, it should be blue, actually. So, but if we move away from it, it becomes white again, and it becomes blue again. So the next one will be that it needs to become green when we release. So that's called on mouse up. we're gonna say renderer dot material dot color equals color dot green. So we click it becomes red, and we release it and it becomes green. As you can see, it is green as we want, but we want it to be green till the point that we click on it again, because if we move away from it now, it becomes white again. So now we need to make a toggle. So we're going to call this public boolean, and we're going to call it toggled, and by default it's false. And we actually want it to be toggled at the moment that we release the mouse button, because then it becomes green. So we're going to say toggled. We can do this in two ways now. We can check if toggle is false and make it true, and when it's true we make it false. But that's quite a line of code, so we can do it on a more easier way. So we say toggled is not toggled. So what it means is when, for example, this one is false at the start, and we say not toggled means actually not false, which means true. So actually what we say here is false equals true. So we actually switch the meaning of the boolean. So true becomes false and false becomes true. So that actually created a toggle here. But now we need to make sure that we need to use the toggle to prevent those two from happening when we are using it. So we need to create an if statement here. So if toggled and why I not say true is because this one here means true or false, and if this the statement between the brackets after an if statement is true, then it will continue the if statement. So this already means true or false, so I can just say that it needs to be if toggled. So right now what it will do is it will only render it blue when it is not toggled. So if it's when it is toggled, it will not change the color. And the same we're gonna do here. There we go. So now if we're gonna test this, we move over, it becomes blue, move away, it becomes white. If we click it and we hold down the mouse button, it becomes red, and if we release it, it becomes green. And now when we move away from it, it stays green, whatever we do. But when we click it, it becomes red, and release it becomes green. But now actually the toggle is gone, so if we move away from it, it becomes white again. There we go. As you can see, it works fine. So to the next one. This square needs to become a random color every time we click on it. So we're going to make a C# script, and we're going to call it color random. We open it the moment develop, and actually this one is quite easy because it's an unbutton event. We just need to put the void on the mouse down. And because it's going to be a new color every time, we do not need to make a variable for it because we only use it once. So we're going to say renderer.material.color equals new color. It's important you say new because it will be a new color and you cannot use the same color over and over. We're going to say new color, and now we're going to use a random generator. So that's done by the class random dot value. What this will do, it will generate a random number between 0 and 1. And as you can see, the color class needs 3 values: the R, the G, and the B, which stands for red, green, and blue, which are actually the colors that create other colors. So in order to get a random color, we need to randomize all those 3 things. So what we're just going to do, we're going to copy paste this, and we're going to put it over there, a total of 3 times in there. So what it does now, every time we click on the mouse, the color of the material of the object will be a new color, which will be created from a random red value, a random green value, and a random blue value. And that's actually it for this. So we're going to put this on our sphere. We're going to run it. Oh, wait. That didn't save it, I guess. No. I'm going to run it. And every time I click on it, it becomes a new color. There we go. So that works fine. So now the last one will be our moving object. So we're going to create a new C# script, and we're going to call it Race Controller. I'm going to open it in monodevelop. There we go. And what we want to do is we want this object to move forward, backwards, and turn around depending on our input. And when we hold shift, we want it to actually do that twice as fast. So we need to have some kind of multiplier by it. So we say multiplier, public float multiplier equals 1. So that's the default. And then we want to make a void fixed update. Because it will be for only on fixed moments, and those moments will be the moments that we have some input. So we can say void fixed update, and then we want to check if we are holding the left shift. So we're going to check if input dot get key. So this is going to check on a certain key, and it will be a key code dot left shift. So that's when we press our left shift. If that happens, our multiplier will become 2. Else we want that our multiplier becomes 1 again. So we got that now, and now we want actually to store or input. So we do that by saying float h, and why choose h? Because we want our input in axis, so that's going to be a horizontal axis and a vertical one. So we say input dot get axis, and we go 2 quotes, and we say horizontal. Make sure this is a capital H. I will show you why. First we're going to make a float for the vertical input too. So we say input dot get axis, and we're going to say vertical. So as you can see, I got the input here with a string, and I got it here with a key code. Why I do that is because in Unity, if you go to project settings and input, you can see axis here. It might be on another way for you. I don't know how your where you put which things. So as you can see here, we got here the horizontal axis, and the negative button is left, and the positive one is right. And as alternative keys, we got A and D. So that means when I press A, it will become -1. If I press D, it will become +1. And if I do not press anything, it will be 0. And same thing goes for the vertical, only this goes for up and down and W and S. The reason why shift is not there is because shift is not in that list. We got jump here, for example, is the joystick button 3. We can also put it as, for example, spacebar, as you can see here. So now that we got those values, we want to do something with it. So we want to use the vertical axis to move forward or backward, and our vertical horizontal input is gonna determine which side we're gonna turn. So we're gonna use transform. Be sure it's the one with the lowercase t. I'm gonna say translate. Translate is actually the movement, and we're gonna say vector 3. And a vector 3 is actually nothing more than a line in 3D space. It's gonna point us some direction. But we can do it by giving it some value, like how much on the X, Y and Z. But we can also just say forward. So that means that it will go forward 1 unit. But we want this to be times V, so the amount we are pushing. For actually a keyboard, that doesn't really matter much, because on a keyboard you press it or you do not press it. But if you have a joystick, for example, you can have like a half input there, because you will just not push it that far forward. But we got this, and we wanted to multiply it. Multiplier, that times the multiplier, and then we want it to go over time dot delta time. So that means that in 1 second, every second, it will move this distance forward or backwards. Because if the V is a negative value, then the +1 times -1 will become -1. So it will actually go backwards. So now that we got the forward and the backward moving there, we want to make it rotate. So we're gonna say transform again with the lowercase, and then we say rotate. And the rotation will be on this axis. We don't want it to go upwards or in whatever way. We just want it to go on that axis. So we say 0. And we're gonna say here 90, which stands for the amount of degrees in the angle, times h, times the multiplier, and time dot delta time, and then a 0 again, because it will be relative to the 0 point, which will be his old position. And again, 90 degrees, if that is times -1 or +1, it will means left or right. So this will be just our movement left and right. So if we save this now, go back to Unity, we'll put the race controller on there, and we're gonna run it. The best thing is to look at it from here. As you can see, it goes slow, and if I hold Shift, you can see that it is going a little bit faster. Also for the rotation, you can see that it is going slow now, and when we hold Shift, going faster. So that's actually it for this lesson. If you have any suggestions or any questions or any requests, please put them in the comment section below. If you learned something from this, please put this in your favorite list, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about scripting in C#. So that's it, and take care. Goodbye.